All right, so
I have to give you a little bit of credit for this.
Yeah, we can overdub it later. Just
I
Had any crazy stories about? Oh wait, no, I do. I got robbed at gunpoint, mugged.
Looking for me, but I ain't checking for them. No.
sleazy real estate guys,
News
but
you. All right, so another episode of the EP podcast here. Once again, going beyond the headlines with the co-host Arthur Hannick. Arthur, how's it going?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
This episode of the EP podcast is sponsored by Dad's House, a clothing brand built to honor the fathers of the past, the present, and the future. It is for the guys balancing work, family, and trying to figure it all out. Respect the rule, wear it well. To place an order, follow at dads_house_94 on Instagram and shoot them a DM.
This feels really weird right now. So when we first started the podcast, we were using headphones, but we stopped using it after some time because we didn't find it necessary. But now that we have a TV component, and we go through video sometimes, we need to have some headphone wear on because if not, the mic picks up the audio from the TV. So it makes it a little complicated. It feels weird hearing my voice here. Does that feel weird to you?
It does, but I thought we are just going to use the headphones when we had the video, not constantly wear it like we're on a Zoom call.
Yeah, so let's feel it out. Let's see what we find we like the most, and then kind of go from there. Okay, so yeah, beyond the headlines once again, have a lot to cover. A lot of stuff from the politics, finance, hot events, whatever's going on. So we'll dive right into that. I'm curious to see what your topics are. But before we do that, if you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe, share it with your friends, and turn on the notification bell for many more episodes to come. And if you'd like to support us, please visit ebpodcast.us and pick up some of the merch. If not, just please leave us a thumbs up and subscribe. All right, Arthur, actually, something that I find is helping is just having one ear a little bit out because there's a little bit of a delay in this. So it throws me off a little bit. So if you want to just have like a little bit of an ear out on one, I find that it helps. Okay, so all right. So Arthur, this is what I have here, right? Warren steps down announces his retirement from Berkshire. That's huge news. It's a little older at this point. It was earlier in May that it was announced, but I think still relevant to speak on. And we talk about Warren like at least once a month. So, and then also Dick's Sporting Goods is acquiring Foot Locker. I'm not sure what that means too much in terms of Foot Locker's legacy, but I definitely have fond memories of Foot Locker. I'm not sure too much of where he shopped. Now, we haven't touched on Trump in a while, but Trump did just get done from his Arab Gulf states tour, per se, and secured a decent amount of money for U.S. investments. So there's also that too. There's also a bill aiming to crack down on porn in the U.S. I thought that could be a little bit interesting. And lastly, there's also, I'll leave this one towards the end. But we have a lot to go that we might not even go through some of these, but a lot to pick from here. What do you have?
The last American Hamas hostage released. Touching a little bit on the stock markets and where they are at the moment, and just a small update on Pope Leo the 14th.
Okay. Keeping us updated with what's going on at the Vatican, right?
Yep.
Okay, so let's do Warren Buffett and let's do the Pope after, just because, Warren Buffett, it's a little older news at this point. It might not make sense. We'll see. All right, so Warren Buffett stepped down. Well, it announced his retirement from Berkshire Hathaway. That was big news, I think, in the finance world or just the business world in general. As we all know, Warren Buffett is known as the Oracle of Omaha because of his investing over the years. He's known as the value investor. I remember I wrote one paper about him. I did one piece of paper on him, like back in Dell Tech, probably 6 years ago. And then just learning so much about him over the years, I thought it would just make sense to go about it. So here's a little things about Warren, right? Well, first off, what was your reaction to hearing about Warren stepping down?
I thought it made sense for the company.
Mm-hmm.
idea that Warren is still actively running the show, and if he just happened to drop dead, he keeps saying there's a succession plan, but the stock was still going to suffer as a result of that.
Yeah.
So if he's going to step back or step out or just be more of a consultant on the
Mhm.
side,
Mhm.
then we can see how the stock's doing without him while he's still around to
Mhm.
be able to help course correct.
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of companies sometimes have a little bit of a conflict with when its longtime owner is around for the entirety of it, and then starts getting older, and they have to start trying to figure out how do we you know exit that, because it's to some companies that is the business, to some company that is the business. But I think Warren picked up on that a while back, and was very keen on not putting his name on like many things. Like Berkshire, he kept it as Berkshire, and then just changed what it originally did. So a little bit about Warren here. I wanted to look up some facts about Warren here. So he took control of Berkshire in 1970. So he's been the head of it for a while now. And then it was a textile manufacturing company, I think, at first. I think that's what it was. And then he turned it into what we know it now, where they have holdings of several companies, of big companies like Coca-Cola, like Dairy Queen, I think is one of them, and like so many more. What are some that you know at the top of your head?
They own C's Candies. They
Fruit of the
own
Loom,
uh,
Fruit of the Loom,
Geico Insurance.
Geico. Okay, and with
And then they also have a mortgage company.
yep. So like, is it Berkshire Hathaway? Is it I forget what the exact names, whatever, but it's in real estate. So he has some of his highlights include, he has so many highlights, but I actually didn't know this. He actually got the Presidential Medal of Freedom at one point. And another thing too, I know there's so many books on this, but like everybody reads his annual letters to the shareholders like it's the guide to finance or everything like that. Why do you think that is? What do you know about that?
Well, first of all, people will actually show up to the annual meeting,
Yeah.
and it's an event. You can, if you own a share of stock, you're invited to the annual meeting for any company.
Yeah.
But everyone goes to Berkshire, and some people just buy one share just for that invitation.
But let's look up a couple things here. Let's pull up on Google Berkshire Hathaway. I think it's Class A stock. So let's do that, because the Class A stock is the big expensive one. And it's so expensive, as a matter of fact, that they specifically made a Class B for people to be able to afford a piece of Berkshire, because the barrier to entry was so high. So let's look up Class A price. Let's see here. So that's Class B. Why is it showing you Class B and not A when you're typing A? That's odd. Berkshire
Or
Hathaway.
just do Berkshire Hathaway.
Yeah, just do Hathaway. Yeah. It might not even be called Class A. No, well, stock. Uh, is what's going on here? That's odd. Why is it showing you stock? Well, just write Class A stock and see what comes up, and then on a specific link. Let's see if a link has it. Let's go to the Square Stock Screener. See, oh, actually, go to Yahoo Finance. Yahoo Finance, the second link. They probably have it there. Oh my God. Look at that. Have you ever seen that meme? Oh my God. So $770,660 for a share of Berkshire Hathaway. That's crazy, dude. I haven't seen this chart in a while, but the last time I saw it, it was like at 500 something. Let's look at the 5 year window where it says 5Y. So 5 years ago, it was like around 300. Wow. It more than doubled in 5 years.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And then let's see what
We also have to remember the market went up the S&P went up 20% in 23 and 24.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's crazy. Now, the next thing I want to look up is show what the annual meeting looks like. It looks like you're going to a concert. How many people show up? So Berkshire Hathaway at annual meeting, and then just go to images. Maybe you'll be able to see something here.
Omaha lives for this event.
Dude, that's crazy. I've seen it. I couldn't believe it.
And
Like,
the
look at that.
prices skyrocket
click
on
on one of-
everything.
click on the third
Hotels,
picture.
food.
Really? Look at that. For now, you're good where you're at. You're good where you're at. So look at that. You're good where you're at. Wow. All that to hear about how some companies do it. And it's not like Apple that they're throwing out like, oh, we're gonna announce this huge new product that's coming on the market, or the next iPhone, or the next AirPods, or something. Like, this is just to go over like company financials.
Correct. And you have to have it be an owner of the company to go, and the media is not permitted. So the companies that send somebody to report on it have to have a ticket by being a shareholder.
So are Class B, do you know if Class B owners are allowed to go there?
No, it's Class A.
That's old Class A. Oh my God. Look at that. I wonder what that itinerary looks like. You think they do like a reception, like cocktail drinks, or after the fact, like that?
There's a few events,
Oh my,
but then those are even more limited. So it's just because you own the share
Uh-huh.
doesn't mean you're getting invited to
right.
a reception before or prior to the
I'm
event.
sure there's like even more special treatment for those that own a good amount of that. That's crazy, man. So here are a few fun facts about specifically about Warren. He bought his first stock at 11 years old. At 11 years old, and then filed taxes for the first time at 13. Filing taxes for 13, man. At 13 years old, imagine that. Here's another thing too. He had. What's your reaction to that?
That's not common in the United States.
At 13?
I was filing taxes by then too.
Really?
Yeah.
What were you doing?
I had stocks.
How did you get involved so early on that?
You know, when you get money for birthday, Christmas, etc., and your parents say you're not allowed to spend it, and they take it and put it in the bank, and then once it reached a few $1,000s, they tried to get me interested in the stock market. So went to see their broker, and we bought a couple of shares of a couple of different stocks, and they let me choose. So I had bought things like Coca-Cola,
Oh my God, that's so funny. that you say that.
Wendy's. I don't know
Wendy's?
Wendy's.
Okay.
Nike. I got to choose 5 companies. I don't remember what all 5 were.
Was Wendy's looked at as like a blue chip?
No, it was just
like
it was just a matter of, let's give this a try. Let me choose companies that I've heard of. And then they showed me how to look at the stock price, and you had to look at it in the newspaper. So you'd go through the business section and be able to look for its ticker symbol and be able to see how it was trading. So periodically I would take up the newspaper and look to see where it was.
Look at that. Wow. We have Class B Warren Buffett over here.
Yeah, but it wasn't the money that Warren has.
Yeah.
But it was just
That's so
an
cool
activity.
though. That's so cool. I guarantee you most kids at that age aren't thinking about any
And
of
this is
that.
before the whole philosophy of just put the money into an S&P index fund. This was really back when it was, choose stocks.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting. The more we know, we got a fun fact about Arthur while we were doing fun facts on Warren. So it's
But
funny.
then that's where the kitty tax.
Kitty tax. What's that?
When you make over a certain amount to be taxed, I don't know what the dollar threshold is now, but you're not taxed at the tax rate you should be. You're automatically taxed at your parents' tax rate.
Really?
So if I made a few $100s, I should have been taxed at 10%. Well, because of the kitty tax, they force you to go up to your parents' tax rate to make sure your parents aren't hiding money under the children's name to get preferential tax treatment.
That makes sense.
So if my parents were getting charged 35, 40% in taxes, so was I on the little bit of money that I made.
Dang. So it's awesome to be a young investor, but also kind of sucks for that reason.
Government put a catch-22 in there.
There you go.
Now, that didn't exist when Warren was investing.
Right.
This is something that came out in, I want to say, the 90s.
Yeah, Warren is older than you, right?
just a few years.
Okay, so it's funny they mentioned all those companies because he specifically was saying that his entrepreneurial tendency started early on, buying and selling gum, buying Coca-Cola bottles, ironically enough, and delivering newspapers as a child.
Well, the Coca-Cola one wasn't interesting.
Why?
His uncle owned a little store,
Mhm.
so he would
Oh,
go
that's
in
right, yeah.
and purchase the cold Coca-Cola for 4 cents a bottle,
Mhm.
and then walk out on the street and sell them for 5 cents.
Yeah.
So people were buying off of him for the convenience of not walking into the store for a premium of a penny more.
Wow, dude.
So he'd keep running in and grabbing I don't know if it was a 4-pack or a 6-pack of bottles then. So he'd pull that out of the ice box and run outside and then walk up and down the streets and sell it for a penny higher than what he had to purchase it for from his uncle.
What a thug! What a thug! So so at that age I was looking up like what the money looked like then for him. So and what I found was during his early success at the age of 16, which would have put him around 1946, he had already accumulated an equivalent of $53,000. But that's what that was then. In today's money, that's $828,974 in today's money.
It was easier to make money back then.
Well, yeah, they were fresh off like the depression and all. Not fresh off, but like, still recovering from all that stuff. But dude, he could have bought a Berkshire Hathaway Class A stock today back then. Given the price that is now, at the price of today. Isn't that crazy? And then the Coca-Cola thing, the kicker to that is he's known of having a diet of a 6-year-old where he eats the same thing, like what is it for breakfast? He'll go and get the same thing at McDonald's all the time,
Well,
right?
McDonald's he'll vary on.
Mm-hmm.
It depends upon what's going on in the market. If it's not a good market, he scales back and get a less expensive item. And then if it's a good day or it's a good week, he might splurge and get something a little bit more expensive
Yeah.
from McDonald's.
That's funny. I wonder if he has one. He has to have one. One of those gold McDonald cards. It's like you get like unlimited McDonald's for a lifetime.
He does.
Yeah, like I'm sure he does. Like that's crazy. I mean, the fact that Warren Buffett has the diet of a 6-year-old specifically to McDonald's and not any other fast food establishment is probably like a big marketing pool for them.
And as for his Coca-Cola habit, it wasn't always Coke. It was Pepsi.
Really?
I want to say it was in the 80s that one of the higher ups at Coca-Cola was one of his neighbors. And he made it his mission to find a way to get Warren to switch from Pepsi to Coke. And he thought that would be a huge advertising way of getting his product promoted, because if Warren was photographed with Coke at his desk or out and about or at a restaurant, then that's how he was going to do it. So I believe Warren's flavor is cherry Coke.
Cherry Coke. Nah.
So I think cherry Coke was invented
I'm not a big fan
specifically
of that
for
one.
Warren's taste, and then I
Yeah.
believe he switched to diet cherry Coke.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
So he's
something.
getting progressively worse.
So it was something so random, but there's a series of restaurants in Omaha that specifically carry the soda that he drinks.
Wow. They should just call it the Warren. Can I get a... I'm surprised he doesn't have like his own meal. The Warren meal.
He might. He usually just goes to diners. He's not going to fancy restaurants. He's just happy just having regular food.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so tell me what's going on with the Pope. One
Well,
guy is stepping down, one guy got put in. What's going on with him?
it sounds like, it's not official, but it sounds like that Pope Leo is going to reside in the papal apartments, which hasn't been done since Benedict. The other interesting part in doing the research on this is that those apartments only get renovated when the Pope changes. So when Francis got elected, they did nothing because he had no intention of staying there. But when Benedict took office, they had to do a little bit more than just fresh paint and upholstery. Since John Paul had been there for 26 years and nothing had been done.
What is this place called?
The papal apartment?
Do me a favor. While he's telling us about that, look up what this place looks like. I'm curious to see what this place. How do you spell that? The
Palpal.
Palpal. How do you spell that?
Papal.
Palpal. Yeah, just look that up. Okay, so tell me. Keep going.
I mean, it's mainly marble.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the rooms are vast, some of them a little bit more intimate. It consists of roughly 10 rooms, and obviously you go into a small vestibule. And then from there, there's a small office for his secretary.
Mm-hmm.
He has a private study, his bedroom,
Mm-hmm.
a medical suite, a dining room, a small living room. There's a kitchen, a rooftop garden.
Mm-hmm.
The library sounds like it's probably one of the major rooms,
Yeah.
and that might be more for meeting space than anything else. And then he has a private chapel, and then there's rooms for housekeepers.
Let's see if we can find any of these. I'm not sure exactly what they look like, but let's see. Daily Mail. That Daily Mail and the Lateran. Yeah, let's do that. Yes, click on that. See what that looks like. Apartments that Pope Francis refused to stay in because they're too plush.
Well, I believe the bottom right for the bed is from the vacation house, not from the actual Vatican apartment.
So is that picture in the middle the building?
I believe that's part of the Vatican.
Oh, is it? Okay.
The Vatican's massive.
Okay. There you go. Well,
But I can see if they're saying those marble halls is part of it, then I can see why Pope Francis decided that that was too grand for him.
yeah.
But at the end of the day, he didn't reside there, but he still had to utilize them.
Hmm.
Because when the Pope stands at the window and gives the Sunday sermon,
Right.
it's from, I want to say, the library, or it's from his study.
Mm-hmm.
So
But does he go to the Vatican to give it, or he gives it out of the apartments?
the Vatican apartment.
The
The apartment is at the Vatican.
Okay.
Just like the White House has a private residence for the president on the upper floors,
Uh-huh.
the apartment's on the upper floor of the Vatican.
Oh, so this is like in the same how do I say it? Like the same complex?
It's the same.
Same complex, just
The buildings are massive.
uh-huh.
Like,
Well, let's look up the Vatican. Are you able to pick up on it if you look up the Vatican?
yeah,
Well, you could have just used that same Google tab. The Vatican. Okay, let's look at an aerial view of it.
do images.
Yeah, good images. Do aerial view of the Vatican. Yeah. See what comes up here. Okay. Now, which image do you want to pull up here?
Do that third one.
The third one? Okay. Yeah. All right. So so I see the entrance, the main entrance. Wow, look at that. I think the last time I didn't get to see much of the whole event, but I think the last time I saw this was during Nicolas Cage. What's the movie? Huh? No. The one that was in Italy. The Da Vinci Code.
Never saw it.
No, was that in there? I think
never
that
saw
was
it, so
in
I
it.
don't
It
know.
was a good movie. It was a good movie. I think, but I think they got a lot of backlash from it though. Okay, so are you able to pick up on this at all, Arthur?
I believe
So let's
When
let's open the image in a new tab just because it's a very detailed image, and then zoom in. Okay, let's see that.
when he gives his speeches, it's always from a window that's over this way.
Really?
Yeah, so it's not coming from the main building, it's coming over from the side.
So the one he chose not to say because it was too plosh. Is it plosh? Or I know in English and like in the UK they say posh, but plosh, is that like another way of
It'd
saying
be
it?
posh.
Is it posh? Okay.
But this is St. Peter's Basilica,
Mhm.
and it holds something like 19,000 people.
Okay. And the apartments are where?
And then this would be the Vatican and the apartments, and every time a pope, I think each century, another pope would add another wing to these buildings.
What? That's wild. Wow. Okay. So is there anything else happening other than he decided that he's gonna be staying at the apartments?
It ultimately makes sense. This
Mhm.
was a system that's been developed over years of trial and error, that where he resides is where he works. Yes, there's some private space, but he would still have to go there because his office was there, his secretary is there.
Mhm.
If he was meeting with people, it would happen there.
Mhm.
If he's serving a meal, there's the dining room. So I understand where he was saying it was too grand for him to live in,
Mhm.
but I'm sure it made more complications by having to commute
Yeah.
from the hotel guest house areas back and forth to the Vatican every day.
Get him a golf cart.
Well, he has his own transportation,
Okay.
but it would still be, how much easier is it
Yeah,
when
yeah.
you can wake up from your
No,
bedroom
for
and
sure.
walk down the hall in your office?
For sure, for sure. I mean, I roll over to my office, so yeah, I totally get that. Okay, so moving on from that. So as I brought up earlier, now because it's very related to the Vatican, the Dick's Sporting Goods buying Foot Locker. So this was news to me, just because, for one, I used to be when I was in high school, I used to flip sneakers and like hype beast wear and all that kind of stuff. Do you remember me when I used to do that? I was like very early on in our relationship, but I used to tell you about it a little bit. So, anyways, Dick's is apparently a rival of Foot Locker, which I never thought of really, but it makes sense. So they agreed to buy Foot Locker for 2.4 billion, and this was announced on May 15th. Now, before the announcement, the stock was at $12.87, right?
Mhm.
And after the announcement, it surged 75% to $22.50 pre-market of the announcements. And at the same time, Dick's stock fell 9%. So they're definitely paying a premium for it. But then that made me curious. I looked up the stock chart for Foot Locker, and I clicked on the all-time window, and their peak years were like, I think it's like 2015 to 2017, I think, and they were trading around the $70 range.
That's what I was going to say. That
Yeah.
I felt that they've been declining
Yeah.
for the past several years.
Yeah.
I mean, hasn't their model always been to have locations inside a mall?
I believe so.
How often do you shop at the mall?
Yeah. I think I mean, malls, like, over the years have been slowly declining, but I think COVID really accelerated that. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it made it worse for them.
Yeah.
But would you still go to a Dick's location? Or are you more likely to go to a Dick's location than a Foot Locker?
I would say that it would be more likely, from the average standpoint, I would be more likely to go to Dick's standpoint. But yeah.
Dick's has designed it that they are a standalone store
Mhm.
or have a private entrance in a strip mall.
Yeah. Okay. Kind of like
So they're a
like a
destination.
JCPenney's or a Macy would have.
Correct.
Okay, I see. Yeah, it was a little. I don't know what they're gonna do with the brand now. I feel like sometimes these acquisitions sometimes just end up leading to the demise of the company. After a while, it's like Skype, right? Microsoft acquired Skype, and then Skype recently got shut down. Obviously, Zoom went into kill them afterwards, but even after the pandemic, Zoom stock completely went down. But it took me back to my early days when I was flipping shoes and everything like that. I remember that was the only time, or at least that I experienced, that people were starting to do. It was big on raffles, and raffles, like a raffle system of not winning a shoe, it's winning the opportunity to purchase the shoe. That's how much of a demand they had, which was crazy to me. So I remember getting my first pair of Yeezys through a Foot Locker raffling system, and then it was gifted to me afterwards. But they were still pretty big on the basketball culture. I mean, they had partnerships with the NBA, specifically with like the Chicago Bulls. So I would say they had a big impact on the sporting industry. But hey, that's another chapter and another company that's going. So, and I think also I saw that Skechers recently got bought out as well. I forget by what company, but I think it was just like a random investment firm. So there's that with Foot Locker, man. What was the last time you shopped at Foot Locker?
I would have had it been in grade school,
Really?
but it was because of friends, family owned a Foot Locker at the mall. So that was the only reason we went to that
Oh
store
my
versus
god,
going to
what
the
a different take. Okay, I've never heard that one. Yeah, my buddy owns a Foot Locker, so I go in there to support his small business. Then it turns out the small business is a freaking Foot Locker. Oh my god. But they're so expensive now, the shoes in there. Like I think that the cheapest pair of shoes you could get these days at those kind of stores is like a Nike Air Force One for like 60, $70. I don't even know how much those are going for now. But like everything else is in the hundreds range, 300s range. That's just insane to me. I did before, and I would do it because I was into it, but I was also in the buying and selling business. But that industry isn't really there anymore.
Okay, this might not affect you, but why'd you get into shoes specifically?
Well, shoes specifically. Well, I think I went through a phase where I was. This is probably bad timing to say this, but I was influenced by Kanye, by the impact he was having on the fashion industry, and I remember his specific impact while he had the Yeezy clothing line. The footwear was the real moneymaker for him, especially after his well, it started with Nike first with the Red Octobers, and then it went into Adidas with the Yeezys. But that's what got me into it. But that market got completely oversaturated. But that I mean, and once I picked that up, I was like, I'm out. I think it's one of my little to no success stories in business there.
Okay, so the whole thing with shoes really started when uh, kids would go out to get shoes with their parents, and their parents were on a budget and would tell them they couldn't have X, Y, or Z. They could have the less expensive version. So as a result of being told no constantly, you can't afford, people that were, I guess, around teenagers in the 70s and 80s, then when they made money, got obsessed with having shoes because they were never allowed to have what they wanted. And then it wasn't just having one pair, it was having multiple pairs. And then all of a sudden, this whole thing blew up where now you have to have pairs that you've never worn and they're collectors. And then you'll have another pair that you will wear. And that's how this whole thing has blown up, where people literally have 200 or 300 pairs of sneakers.
I don't understand it. I don't understand it. I feel like I have too many shoes. Like I probably have, if I had to count at the top of my head, probably 15 to 20 shoes. But if you ask me how many I have in rotation, I probably wouldn't say more than like 3. There's my then my gym shoes, my everyday for casual and business casual shoes, and then there's like the formal shoe, right? But I think it's more of a younger. Here's the thing, I think it's a money thing for those who have like an abundance amount of money, abundance of money, and then people who just like the trendy crap, because those people, the people who I think they both have kind of like a lack of understanding how much money they're spending. But the only difference is that one has it and the other one doesn't have it as much. I was definitely the one that didn't have it as much because I would have a ton of crap of shoes. But yeah, I don't get the whole thing, and that could go into so many different areas. But all right, Arthur, let's do a little bit of speed round here because we actually have to do a short episode today. What else do you have going on?
Well, the last hostage from Hamas was released a couple of days
I
ago.
never would have thought that you would have brought up a Hamas topic. I wonder where this is going to go. Tell me about it, which is awesome. Great news.
Oh, it was Eden Alexander. He graduated from high school in New Jersey. He's from New Jersey, but his parents are from Israel, so he has dual citizenship. And when he graduated high school, he wanted to help make a difference in Israel, so he joined the Israel Armed Forces. And he was picked up when the attack happened, and because he was part of the forces, they refused to let him go in any other hostage releases. So they held him for 19 months. So he was 19 when they took him, and he was 21 when they released him.
Wow. So he was held hostage for 2 years, huh?
For nearly 2 years.
Wow. Well, that's great news that he's back home now with his family. And how many you said that was the last one?
The last American
The last American.
living hostage. It sounds like they have the bodies of 4 Americans that have passed away that we would like to get back to return to their families. And then I don't know if there's a definitive answer on how many other hostages that they have. They still have some, but nobody has an exact idea of how many are alive. It's only best guess at this point.
Wow. Glad I don't really have much to say about that, but it's great news that he's back. Continuing off, is that all you have on that? Which is fine.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, going off of that, Trump just got back from his trip to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE, and secured a little bit over $3 trillion. Okay. So I specifically looked into it, and I wanted to see how much of each, he secured, and it was Saudi Arabia for $600 billion, with a $142 billion million defense deal and major tech and infrastructure projects with U.S. giants like Google and Boeing, which is great for them. 1.3 trillion from Qatar, headlined by a 96 billion order for 210 Boeing aircraft and significant investments in energy and military cooperation. And the last one, the UAE, for 1.4 trillion over the next decade. And that's going to go to AI, semiconductors, energy, including 440 billion boost in U.S. energy projects and access to advanced NVIDIA chips. So great news for the U.S., right? But we'll see how that looks after his administration. I'd be curious to see what that looks like, because sometimes you kind of got to wonder, is like how much of this is a photo op, how much like the relationships and all that stuff. So I'm curious to see did you see any of this? Like, as it was going on?
I didn't.
Yeah. So let's pull up. I have some highlights of the tour. Let's pull up one of this. Let's pull up the Qatar after Saudi Arabia. If you go to my notes, I have a highlight of the tour section. Yep, number 3 right there. Go to point B, and then click on that video, and then let's.
Mike Keppel here, Patriot Software's founder.
Not a sponsor. All right, and then go ahead and then full screen that, please. So that's when he arrived in Qatar. Go ahead and put that on 1.5 speed, please. Look at that. I think they even did their own iteration of the YMCA song when he arrived.
And that is his limo, the Beast, that has to travel ahead of him.
Right. Look at that. Interesting. So, from what I saw overall, even in one picture, the Burj Khalifa, I think is what it is. The Burj Khalifa, I think it's Khalif or Khalifa. Look up Burj Khalifa Trump. Yeah. I realize that's a tough thing to spell. BURJ. I want to say. Yep, American flag right there. Boom. They did this too, kind of like how when skyscrapers they'll put up like themed colors of things. But look at what they did. This is, I believe, this is the tallest building in the world, and this is what they did with it. Look at that. Look at that. We're getting a quick call here, guys. Just hold on for a quick second. Hello.
Hey, just wanted to make sure I'm here. It's like a red door brick house.
Is there a Tesla parked?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. You're at the right place. Yep. Yeah. I'll be right out. Awesome. Thank you. Bye bye. So that was actually our guest that's coming up right afterwards. So, yeah, that was the Burj Khalifa. Is that how you say it? Is no one have the name up here? Yeah, Burj Khalifa. One of my buddies recently went to the UAE, so that was pretty cool. But look at that. Look at that. Pretty good treatment he got while he was out there. So, Arthur, one last thing. Let's cover one last thing before we head out. He secured the money, but let's end on a lighter note. On a lighter note. So, women files for divorce after Chatgpt predicted her husband was cheating on her.
How does that?
I was gonna ask, did that go through? Because that's the world we live in today. Remember when we were covering the lead uses of AI on the Harvard report, and the top 3 were emotion like stuff?
Are they going off of statistics, or was she
So-
able to put in enough personal information that it was likely that he was cheating?
It gets worse. That's just the tip of the iceberg. A woman in Greece, our buddy Carlos Lewis, the owner of Toast to Achievement podcast, he's actually currently in Greece. He's currently in Greece right now. So, a woman in Greece reportedly filed for divorce after ChatGPT told her that her husband was cheating, based on a photo of his coffee cup. Okay, so they've been married for 12 years. She uploaded, because in ChatGPT, when you prompt it, you could also upload pictures and use it that way. So she uploaded a picture of her husband's coffee grounds and asked for a tasseography reading. Never heard of that before. I might be mispronouncing it, but it's a fortune-telling method that interprets patterns in coffee dregs. I don't even know what coffee dregs is. Do you guys know what that is?
Coffee grounds left over.
Okay, is that what that's called? Okay, coffee dregs. So, according to Greek City Times, ChatGPT allegedly responded that the husband was either considering or already involved in an affair with a woman whose name started with the letter E. The AI generated reading claimed the other woman intended to break up with the marriage. So, reactions, Arthur.
Was he actually cheating?
Well, he actually went to a morning show called Topriano, stating that his wife had previously fallen for astrology and other mystical beliefs. I'm sorry, that's a huge red flag. He initially laughed off the AI claims, but things escalated when she told him to leave, informed the kids of the divorce, and sent him legal papers 3 days later.
So it sounds like she didn't want to be married and was looking for any excuse
think that's what it is?
to get out of this relationship.
Yeah. So he's contesting the divorce now, with his lawyer arguing that AI predictions have no legal basis. They cannot be considered evidence of infidelity. That's the world we're in now.
But we have to understand more of what qualifies for divorce in Greece. Can anyone just file, or do they have to have specific grounds?
I wish I could tell you. This case is so crazy that I couldn't get past the fact that she used ChatGPT for that.
Because in the United States, there's irreconcilable differences. So if one wants to stay married and one doesn't, it's irreconcilable differences, and that's the end.
Yeah, dude, I don't know. Dude, for me, when I read that she had fallen for astrology and crap like that, that to me was, I can't stand people that that will be like, oh my God, you're a Libra, you're a Pisces, you're a Taurus. I'm just like, bro, just get away from me, man. Do you read any of that stuff?
Occasionally,
Yeah.
but it's
But is
more
it out
just
of entertainment?
yeah, it's entertainment.
Right.
I don't
It's not like
make
you're
I
guiding
don't
the next
base
thing in your life.
decisions on that.
Because they're all written in a way that
It's up to how
Right.
you choose to interpret
right.
it.
It tells you what you want to read, right? And somehow you end up. That's just crazy to me. ChatGPT. Well, fellas, be careful how you let your lady use ChatGPT because, and specifically your coffee, because you might have some papers being served to you a few days later. So, Arthur, this has been another episode of the EP podcast, Beyond the Headlines. Thank you so much for joining me once again. And ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and turn on that notification bell if you want to support us. Go to eppodcast.us. And until next time.